What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Musings podcast studio. I am super excited to be joined today by prolific comic book writer. I got a little scared when I was looking up his credentials, I'm not going to lie. Mr. Adam Beechen. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we got started. We got connected through my buddy John Garnett. Small internet, yeah. Well, in the connectivity that we have, the availability to be able to connect with creators.
100%. And I've taken advantage of it and gotten to talk to people whose work I admire.
Yeah.
A great tool for communication like that.
It's not like the old days. You actually went into the studio, DC, you would actually fly there and go and, go in and try to get work and things. Like now
Sure.
everything seems like Instagram and X and all these different things. The landscape has changed.
Pretty much. And, if you go further back than that, it was letters pages.
Yeah.
And writing letters to the editor and hoping that you got published and maybe got a no prize for being published.
Yeah.
And if you were lucky, you heard
no
back from
prize.
somebody that you dug. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I just picked up a comic recently. It was the issue that had the letter that George R.R. Martin sent in to the letters page. Yeah.
Cool.
It's a key comic just because of that.
I bet. Yeah, every once in a while you find a letter with, a letters page with a letter from someone who has gone on to other stuff and you know them in a different context. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always cool to me to see like people who reach that stage in their career, and we look at them in this sense of this famous person and everything, but then you just realize like, hey, George R.R. Martin's a guy like me. He loves comics. He loved comics when he was a kid and
Yeah.
got his imagination and creativity going, and look where he is today.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like us, except he wears a sea captain's hat all the
He
time.
does.
We could get one of those, I suppose, and then we'd be just like him.
We might be cooler if we had the sea captain.
Anything would make me cooler.
Well, Adam, I wanted to ask you along those lines, when did you first find yourself looking at comics and becoming a fan of comics? Did it start at a pretty early age for you?
It did, yeah. My dad would go out of town on business trips and he'd always bring me back a little something. And, I always thought it was from whatever exotic location he had visited, but probably it was just the airport.
Yes.
And he brought me a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 151. So that would have been
Oh,
1975, 1976. It's the one with the John Romita cover with Spider-Man in the sewers and the water
yeah.
rushing in behind him.
That's an
And
epic one.
it was Katie bar the door after that. I was glued to comics from then on.
What a way to get your start. It's such an
Yeah.
iconic, Romita Senior, man.
Yeah.
Talk about prolific.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, Ross Andrew did the art on that, and that was
Yeah.
tremendous. And Len Wein wrote the script, and I got to know Len when I was working in comics, and we co-hosted a podcast. And
Oh, that's
so I've got
awesome.
it signed by Len, which is pretty cool. I mean, how many people have the first comic they ever got signed by the author? So
That's amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
so I would make the assumption that you've held on to that.
Oh yes.
That did not go up on eBay.
Those are not going on eBay.
That's amazing. So you still have a lot of your old comics?
I do. I have a lot of them. My entire collection was stolen
Oh
about
no.
15 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that, out of a storage unit.
Dang.
And I thought that was it. They were gone, and I was mourning them like I would the loss of a relative or something. And then I got a
Yeah.
phone call from a friend of mine who said that, one of the local police departments had broken up a storage unit theft ring, and they had found a large collection of comics in there.
Oh
And
man.
did I have an index of my comics? So I sent my index. Of course, I have an index of my comics.
Yeah.
Don't we all? I sent that off to the police department, and they said, "Yeah, we think we found your comics." So I went
Holy
down to
cow.
Garden Grove, California, to another storage unit. They opened the door, and there were all my comics.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
You got them
talk about
back.
lucky.
I was gonna say that never happens, man.
I know. It was such a big collection that the thieves didn't have time to break it into smaller parts to try and sell it. They had
Right.
called local comic shops trying to sell it as a whole, and nobody
Yeah.
wants to buy that many comics.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, not many sane people want to buy that many comics.
Right, it's true.
I've come across some collections because I run a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school by trade. I mean, that's what I've been doing, full time for over 2 decades as far as running my business. And my jiu-jitsu students, of course, know I'm into comics.
Yeah.
And I have a student who used to like to win those storage auctions.
Ah,
So anytime he came across one with comic books, hey coach,
yeah.
do you want to look through these? I've got 15 long boxes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad these guys didn't call you then.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have known any better.
I'd
Yeah.
be looking at the spinner rack behind you saying, wait a minute.
Wait a second. Well, I didn't start getting into the older stuff until recently when I started collecting again. So I picked up a lot of that Spider-Man stuff from the era that you're talking about, and
Yeah.
I've always had a great appreciation for it, but when I was collecting before, it was kind of collecting the current stuff that was coming out at the time, and plus I knew the way my collecting habits work. It's a slippery slope.
Right. Next thing you know, you've got it digitally, you've got it in print, you've got it in
Yes.
reprint books, you've got it everywhere.
Because you have to have the digital one so you don't befoul your original book, physically getting your oils on it and stuff.
Exactly. And God forbid your originals are stolen.
Exactly.
You got to
See,
have
you're
some
making a
backups.
you're making a case. You're making a
Uh,
case so anybody whose significant other gets on them. Why do you need this on this? You've got this copy.
oh, yeah. I've been
Honey,
there. I've got experience with this.
Adam said, I've got to get both.
That's right. You got to have it just in case.
So it all started with that issue of Spider-Man that really sparked it off for you.
Yeah.
At that time, did that get your imagination rolling and you started to think about, okay, I want to make my own stories? And did you write little stories of your own or even draw little stories of your own featuring those characters from the
You
books you were
bet.
reading?
I immediately started sketching and started writing, you know, the equivalent of a 7-year-old writing a comic book, which I guess not the equivalent. I was a 7-year-old trying to write a comic book. So I was drawing Avenger stories and all these heroes and stuff, and never really stopped.
Yeah,
It just, the imagination started and just keeps ticking and ticking.
that's so cool. And what made you gravitate more towards the writing side of things?
My complete lack of art skill. Uh,
You're not the only writer I've had on that told me that that's what held them back.
I was never going to be patient enough to be a really solid artist of any kind. I did editorial cartoons for my high school and college papers when I was younger, and that was fun. And that was just one panel, and so I could handle that. But doing a full
Right.
comic and being that consistent and that focused for that length of time, that's just not my strong suit. I found that I was much better at creative writing and stuck with that and developed that skill.
Now, in your creative writing ventures, did you seek formal training in that regard?
Yeah, yeah. I got a journalism degree as an undergrad, and then went on to graduate school and actually got a screenwriting degree.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so I had training in that regard. Came to LA with a lot of samples of different things that I had written, and that definitely helped. I learned quite a bit.
Now, was the goal always to direct your focus of your writing to the comic book industry?
No, that was a
Okay.
dream. But I came out here to write for the screen, big screen, little screen, screen doors, whatever you got.
Yeah.
And I sort of fell over backwards into animation, and that has been the bulk of my career. It's what I'm still doing today. So I've written, I don't know how many episodes of different shows, but that's really where I've sort of made my niche.
Yes, and I briefly took a glance, and it was overwhelming the scope of all the different animated shows that you've written for. Why don't you give
Yeah,
people some of the ones that really resonated with you that you're really proud of working on?
you may know me from such cartoons as.
There you go.
No, I've been fortunate enough to work on shows for kids of all ages. So I've written everything from Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys and Hot and Stinky and Dirty Show, all the way to stuff for older kids and adults, like Transformers, Robots in Disguise, and the Batman and X-Men Evolution and pretty much
Yes.
everything in between. So
Ben
I've
Ben, Ben 10 I saw on there.
Ben 10, a couple different
Yeah.
incarnations of Ben 10,
It's Johnny
and
Test.
yeah, yeah.
And
So been around.
that has to be fun getting to work on such a variety of things.
Absolutely. It's I'm better at playing in other people's sandboxes than I am in creating my own. That
Right.
doesn't mean I haven't created shows or tried to create shows and pitched shows, but I really love going into an existing situation where the characters are already there, the world is already there, and trying to figure out a story that maybe they haven't done.
Now, was writing for animation the first writing gigs that you got as a professional?
No.
Okay.
I started out in LA reading scripts and doing coverage on scripts for studios. So I was reading features, television pilots, books, and then I would write essentially book reports and hand those
Okay.
into the executives. And I'm just a pisher just off the train from Texas, telling them whether or not I think they should really consider this thing. And they were taking
Yeah.
my word for it. So
Uh,
that was my starter gig.
You
And
must
then
have,
through a
it must have seemed like you knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it helped. After a while, I learned the words.
Yeah.
And then after that, through a university connection, I got a job as a writer's assistant on a primetime show, an Aaron Spelling show, if anybody remembers that name,
Uh-huh.
uh, called Savannah, which was around for a season and a half. And halfway through that second season, I was asked to join the writing staff. So I was a staff writer on a primetime drama. Savannah was not renewed, so I didn't wind up going anywhere from that. And I was really on the verge of moving back out of Hollywood when I got a phone call saying, Klasky Chupo wants to talk to you about a new show called The Wild Thornberrys. They're just starting it up and they're looking for someone to write an episode. Would you be interested? And
Nice.
I said, heck yeah.
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 That's too cool. Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
how things work out like that sometimes. You kind of get right on the verge of that tipping point, and then all of a sudden that opportunity comes knocking.
That's exactly right. And I tell people that I say, after a while, actually, a friend of mine, Dan Watanabe, told me, he said, you're going to work in this business and you're going to work and you're working, and it'll eventually reach critical mass and you'll have opportunities. And the key is just to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Um, and I really took that to heart because you don't know when the next time is going to come.
Absolutely. So this opportunity came, and then at what point was it in your writing career that comics became, because you said it was a dream,
Oh, yeah.
that was kind of the dream, but you ended up on this other path for a while. And when did that opportunity to delve into comic writing get presented to you?
Well, I was working on a number of Warner Brothers shows that had to do with superheroes. I was writing for Teen Titans, was writing for Teen Titans Go, Batman Brave and the Bold, the Batman. And I would go to recordings and I would sit in. And one day, a guy I actually went to college with, a friend of mine named Ivan Cohen, who was an editor at DC, he was serving as a liaison between DC and their animated properties at that time. And so he came out from New York and to attend our record. And so he and I sort of reunited there. And we got to talking and got back in communication. And a couple months later, I was in New York visiting and called him up and went to take a tour of the DC offices, which was, oh my God,
Oh yeah.
you step off the elevator and there's that gigantic mural of all the DC characters with all the different artists. It has since been moved,
Oh
but
yeah.
uh, but it was amazing. And Ivan took me around, which was great. And since I had been writing for the Teen Titans cartoon, he said, "Do you want to meet the editor of the Teen Titans Go comic?" I said, "Sure." So he walked me into Tom Palmer Jr.'s office, and I met Tom, and we got to chatting about the show and about the characters. And he said, "Would you ever want to pitch um, to the book?" And I said, "Heck yeah, I would love to
Oh
pitch for
yeah.
the book." So I went back to LA and I wrote a couple of pitches and sent them in, and he said, "Yep, we're going to do this one." And that issue hit the stands, and like a month or two later, I got asked to do the Justice League Unlimited comic
Wow.
for kids, and I did that for about 2.5 years.
What did you find because I'm making an assumption here, writing for animation versus writing for comics, where you're presenting your script to an artist.
Mhm.
What were Obviously there's an animation team working on the project when you're writing for the animation. Is there much difference there? Because I assume for writing for animation, you're probably describing movement and shots maybe in a different fashion than you would when they're going to be presented in the panels of a comic book. So, what was that like? Was there a little kind of introduction phase and like, hey, okay, this is how you format for comics versus for animation?
Well, the first thing I did when I got the gig was go to a collected edition of Sandman comics, where I knew that a script had been reprinted in the back in its original format. So I just adopted that format and
Smart.
figured that would be something that they would approve of. As far as the amount of description that goes into a page, yeah, in animation you're describing continuous action that's visible on the screen. In comics, you're describing individual panels, individual frames of action. So you're saying, here's what's going on in this frozen moment, and
Yes.
here's how it connects to the next frozen moment. And that took a little bit of getting used to, but not a tremendous amount. It's common sense, I think, to write a description of a panel and not say, Fred walks from the bathroom to the bedroom and he turns on the lamp and he crawls into bed. You
Yeah.
can't do that in a comic. That's 7 or 8 panels, right? So it made sense to me to not have to worry about doing that. So I picked up on it, I think, pretty quick.
What was it like to work with artists who I'm assuming probably you had never met before, or maybe sometimes I know writers work with artists that they've never even got to meet in person and you're just emailing and sending things to.
Yeah.
Um, when you work with an artist, how much room do you leave for them to interpret what you're putting into writing? Like how tight is your script? Are you doing the, panel one medium shot or panel one establishing shot of Gotham City, blah 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 blah?
Yeah.
Like how in depth are you getting, or do you give them a summation of what you want to happen on the page and then they're working from that?
I try to tell whatever artist I'm working with, whether it's the first time or whatever. And sometimes I don't even know who's going to draw it when I'm writing a script.
Yeah.
That the script is just a suggestion. Here's how I'm seeing it in my head. And if I have something really specific that I really think has to be there, I will mention that to the artist. But otherwise, I'll say, you're the pro at this. You know how to take these words and make them into images that flow together. So if you've got a better idea than what I've got here on the page, go for it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would care about would be splash pages. Those are pretty specific, and page turns at the bottom
Oh
of a
yeah.
page. If you're going on to the next one, if you want to change something I've got written down as a page turn, let's talk about it,
For
and we can
sure.
find a compromise between what we're looking for. Because that's really important to me, is to keep the reader wondering what's going to happen on the next page.
Yeah. Let's delve into page turns a little bit more because I don't think that's something that gets talked about a whole lot. Uh, the page turn is such an important factor for what kind of reaction you're going to get from the reader, and if you're wanting to pull the rug out from underneath them and have a
Yeah.
huge shocking thing happen on that next page or whatever. So with page turns, I'm assuming that you're kind of saving them for maximum impact for certain things, right?
Yeah, if I can, for sure. You try to save that stuff for the right facing page rather than the bottom of the left hand facing page, because the reader just has to go, oh, and they're on to the next page. But with a page turn, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I frequently would use those for scene changes, or for big, shocking moments or moments of action or what have you.
Yeah.
I try not to end scenes in the middle of a page if I can help it. I try to treat individual pages as scenes in and of themselves, and fit them all together into the 20 or 22 pages or whatever you have.
It's got to be interesting to work with artists and see your vision that was in your mind's eye get translated onto the page in that art form.
Yeah.
Have you had instances where what the artist came up with versus what you wrote down, like just far exceeded your expectations of how you saw it? Like maybe they did something different that wasn't the way you saw it, but it actually looked better than what you imagined. And I'm sure the opposing thing has probably happened where it didn't capture that vision as well, right?
Well, the former has happened a lot more than the latter.
Yeah.
And I don't have specific examples for you off the top of my head,
And
but
I wouldn't make you point those examples out, even if you did.
but I've
So
been
and so
fortunate,
really botched this.
right? What are you thinking? I've been fortunate to work with some really great artists and real professionals who definitely know what they're doing. And there have been cases where I've worked with somebody and it was maybe their first or second job, and I hadn't heard their names before and didn't know anything about them until the book came out or I saw the art scans of the art. Eddie Barrows and I worked together on Countdown to Adventure, and I don't know if that was Eddie's first job for mainstream American comics or not, but I saw the pages he came back with, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's
Yeah.
incredible. And I love that, and I've had that experience with just about all the artists that I've worked with. And I've worked with some legends. I've been really fortunate in that regard, working with Norm Brayfogle and Howard Chaykin and people like that.
Yeah.
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, my God. And those guys, I'm certainly going to tell them, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just a suggestion.
I can think of somebody I consider a modern master that I've had on the podcast that you worked with on Batman Beyond, and that's Ryan Benjamin.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome.
That's another guy that just, gosh,
Yeah.
prolific comes to mind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. He's also got an incredible eye for layout.
yeah.
His page construction, it just blows my mind.
And
And it was really fun to write for him.
have you had the opportunity to witness how ridiculously fast he is?
No.
Oh my God. He will sometimes do 5 or 6 pages in a day.
Wow.
If he is inspired by what he's working on. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've gotten huge commissions from him at cons, and he's like done in a couple hours, like big,
He's
double spread. Like,
and
and
he's the
we're
nicest
talking,
guy.
nicest guy. And we're talking inks too, like pencils, inks. He's just like
Yeah.
flying on, but he really captures that energy in his layouts and in his drawings, doesn't he?
He really does. And I don't think he gets talked about enough
Doesn't.
as one of the greats of the day. He really does put a lot of thought and energy into his page and panel layouts. And he
Yeah.
tells the story really, really well. In addition to the fact that just his figures are really cool,
Very cool.
angular and crackling with energy, and the expressions on faces are wonderful. That was a real treat to work with Ryan.
Yeah, I think more people are getting to get a glimpse of it now because he's doing a lot of stuff with Proco as far as art instruction videos,
Yeah.
and he's got his Comic Pro boot camp that he runs where they have the online courses. And I can't think of a better segue to talk about something that you have coming up with a little writing course that you may be putting together here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching an online course in comic book writing for a company called Elevator, and that's spelled ELVTR, so only one vowel, Elevator, one vowel,
That's
.com.
edgy. It's
Yeah,
edgy.
right.
I like it.
That's why I went with them.
Yes.
Um, and somehow they found me and asked me if I wanted to try, teaching a course I've never taught before. So I'm putting this together with their help. They've been great. They've been really helpful in taking care of a lot of the work that I wouldn't otherwise have time to do. We've got the syllabus all planned out. We've got each session planned out. We've got guest speakers that are going to be coming in. It's a 7-week course, 13 sessions, each one 75 minutes. So there's a lot of room for me to make a fool out of myself. But hopefully, all of the students, each of the students is going to write a 20-page comic book script as their class project. Um, and, hopefully they learn something along the way and the scripts come out
Yeah.
really great. But I'm excited to get started and nervous.
Well, it's good. If it doesn't make you nervous, you shouldn't be doing it. Like you should
Yeah,
be excited and nervous, I think, right? You got to
I like
push
that.
yourself outside your bounds.
I like
That's
that.
it.
There are still seats available as far as I know for the class. So if people want to go to elevator.com and sign up, it's right there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll make sure to put the link in the description for everybody as well so they can get over there. So it's going to be, are the sessions going to be live and then you're going to have recordings that people can watch after the fact?
That's exactly right. So people can go back to it in case there's something that they missed, or people who weren't able to take the class can just get all the information all at once and binge it.
Nice. Yeah, we do live in a binge society.
It's so true.
It is. Now, I wanted to ask you, it sprung to my mind a little bit earlier in the conversation. If I had to make you pick
Uh-oh.
between writing for comics and writing for animation, which where does your passion lie? Even if it's just even if it's just slightly more.
Well, that's a really hard question.
I know.
Um, I'm awfully loyal to the comics medium, and I really enjoyed my time writing comics. And I have a lot more in the way of stories in me to do that, and I would love to do that just because it's the first medium that I really embraced as a consumer. I
Yeah.
love animation. I certainly grew up watching cartoons, and it's really fun to put, words in the mouths of characters that I've loved for 55 years or whatever. But comics are kind of where my heart is, and I would love to continue doing that.
Yeah. That's what I thought your answer would be, but I wanted to put you on the spot.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Now, what do you have in the works right now that you're able to talk about that you have coming out? I know we just touched on the comic writing
Yeah,
workshop that you're doing, but as far as projects that you have going,
yeah.
what are you excited about that's in the works right now that is publicly acknowledgeable?
Well, the class is taking all of my time right now, but I just came off a year working on the first season of a new cartoon that's going to be on Disney Plus,
Oh, cool.
called Messi and the Giants. It's about Lionel Messi, the soccer star, and his animated adventures in a different world when he falls into a video game. And That's pretty cool. It's a 30 episode set of stories. We worked on it for a year at Sony. Sony is behind the project, and we've come up with some amazing ideas and stories. The show is being run by a friend of mine named Guy Tobis, who is a veteran animation writer, and he is brilliant. And he came
Nice.
up with just a great pitch and an idea for how to work Lionel Messi into this story, and we just ran with it.
Very cool.
Yeah,
When you mentioned Disney Plus, it sprung to my mind. I needed to ask you, do you know Stefan Frank?
I know the name. I'm not sure I've ever
Okay.
met Stefan.
So Stefan, he's done animation and comic stuff. He's a comic artist, but he's worked in animation. So he directed some of the What If episodes on Disney
Oh,
Plus.
awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, those were amazing. And it's
Yeah.
just fun to think in that direction. Like, what? How about if we tweak just this one element of a story that already take place and
Yeah.
turn it into something else? So yeah, that's really good.
Aside from yourself, he was the only other person I've had on where I looked at the credentials and I got nervous because I was reading it, it's like, oh, he was an animator on Iron Giant. Like,
Wow.
oh, head of animation on What If. I'm like, how did I? Because I didn't know. He was recommended to me by Guy Dorian Sr., who I had on here,
Hmm.
an artist. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, you should reach out to Stefan. He's a cool dude. And I'm like, then I'm looking and like, oh, actually how it came about. My wife
Uh-oh.
and I were watching the most recent season of What If, and at the end of
Yeah.
one of the episodes, his name popped up, directed
Uh,
by, and I go, "Oh crap, that's the guy I'm having on the podcast next week."
and I'm sure
Yeah,
he was great because
he
people
was
in
amazing.
animation and in comics, they love to talk about the mediums, and they don't
Every
often get a lot of
everyone
chances to do it.
everyone I've had on has been amazing. So it's
Yeah,
been
you've had
really
quite a
cool.
list. I've noticed it's been great.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
been really
outside
cool.
of outside of Messi and outside of the class, I wrote a graphic novel a bunch of years ago called Hench, that came out through a little company that was active then called AIT Planet Lair. And I wrote a second chapter of that I self-published through Amazon. And I've got a third chapter that I am currently revising the script for. And once that's done, I'm going to go out looking for an artist
Very
and
cool.
try and get that out on the stands, and that'll complete the whole story. It's taken me a long time, but that'll wrap up everything that's been set up in the first two books.
So that's your own creator-owned property, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I share ownership with the original artist, Manny Bello, who is
Okay.
incredibly talented. We did two graphic novels together, so we share both of those.
Let everybody know the concept behind Hinch because it's really unique. I thought it was really cool.
Thanks. It follows a supervillain henchman, and it really gets into why he got into the life. how he got his first jobs, and then why he stayed in the jobs. Because when you think about it, there's no sane reason anybody would want to dress up like a playing card and go to work for the
Yeah,
Riddler, and get the crap beaten out of you and have like a 1 in 50 chance you're going to get away with any kind of money. I could never figure that out. And I would look at old comics, that Jack Kirby drew or whatever, and he would always
yes,
have these henchmen, and they were wearing fedoras and they carried Tommy guns. And I thought, who is that guy? What does his
exactly.
family think of what he does? What does his the kids think about what he does? And the story has been sort of gestating ever since I started thinking about that, and that's where we
Well,
took it.
and that's part of the genius of Jack Kirby, because even the side and background characters had so much of a unique personality to them. It
Right.
made you go, "Hey, I want to know more about that guy. He looks really cool. What's his
And
story?"
you never talk about that guy,
Yeah,
and you never talk about the guys who are in the background of the panels, the people who are about to have the building fall on them. What were they thinking
yeah,
when they got up that morning? Um,
absolutely.
since Hench has come out, a number of other books have followed the same kind of idea. I don't take any kind of credit for that, but a lot of people have been exploring other corners of what goes on in the
Yeah,
backgrounds of stories. I love those stories. I love them. So that's kind
that's
of
so
a
cool.
passion project for me.
Yeah, very unique. Now, as far as inspiration, what writers did you find yourself, what comic book writers did you find yourself gravitating towards over the years? Did you have,
Mm.
and I know you're going to say yes, you had your people that you probably really enjoyed. Like I follow artists because I've always, drawn and been into art. So
Yeah,
I always, the comics I would pursue were always influenced by, okay, who's the artist on it?
yeah.
For you as a writer, I'm assuming you had writers that you kind of followed in the same vein. Who are or who were some of the ones that you really looked up to?
It's interesting. I think as a kid, when you get into comics, first you follow the characters. Like if you really love Hawkeye, you want to see every book that Hawkeye is in.
Right.
If and then once you get through that, then it's about the art, because you've sampled all these books and then you're following artists.
Yeah.
And then once you sort of get to know all the artists, then it's like, okay, who's telling the best stories using these artists, or working with these artists, I should say, collaborating. And then you start recognizing names. And so for me, I latched on pretty quick to Jerry Conway, to
Hmm.
Marv Wolfman, to Len Wein, sort of the regular Marvel stable of writers at that time. And then I grew up about a mile from a shopping mall in Phoenix, and I would walk down to the mall every once in a while and go to the Walden Books that
Oh
was at
yeah,
the
I
mall,
remember Walden Books. Yeah.
and they would have a spinner rack, and I would sort through the spinner rack and see if there was anything I hadn't seen before. And I can vividly remember seeing the cover of a Swamp Thing comic, that had been drawn by Tom Yates, who is also underappreciated. And it was Swamp
Yes.
Thing running through a forest, and soldiers, training their targeted weapons on him. And I thought, that's a really cool cover. And I bought it and took it home. And it happened to be the first issue that Alan Moore had written.
Yep.
And that changed everything.
Yeah.
Um,
For a
you
lot of
know,
people.
yeah, it was just a different way of reading a comic. I could tell that it was a different way of writing a comic, a different way of thinking about the characters. And I started looking at all comic books in a different way through sort of the lens of what he had done. And I got a real appreciation of how hard it is to do.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely kind of tipped everything on its head when
Yeah,
he came around. He changed the game for sure.
yeah, yeah. And before that, I was very much a fan of the Claremont Byrne X-Men.
Yeah.
That was really important to me. And it was pretty clear that Frank Miller, what he was doing on Daredevil, was very different. And I really liked that as well. But the Alan Moore thing, because he wasn't a writer artist, he was a straight up writer, really hit me pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah. You and everybody else.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
Now, earlier you mentioned being in the recording studio on some of these animated projects.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you, like, who were some of the voice actors that you got to interact with that you just cherish those experiences?
Tell you a funny story. And it was while we were working on the Batman. And when I was a freelancer on that show, so I show up. There's sort of it's sort of a courtesy to have me there. I don't really say or do anything. I just sit and
Right.
act. And the actress Gina Gershon was playing Catwoman, and so she came in, and of course it was oh my God, Gina
Yeah.
Gershon. And she was introduced around to everybody in the room, and she was introduced to me, and she said, "Oh, good, you're the writer. How do you want me to play this character?" And I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
You sure you don't want to ask somebody else?" And she said, "No, how do you think I should do it?" I said, "Like a Jewish grandmother." And she said, "Meow." And I said, "That's awesome. Don't do that, but that's awesome." And we had a good laugh about that. And then I asked her if I could have her record that on the answering
Yeah.
machine. And she said, no.
Oh man.
So
But you
that was
got to
fun.
live it though.
Yeah, exactly. But, when guest actors come in, then they stunt cast from time to time, or really great actors are already part of the cast. It's just a dream. These people are such pros, and they're so good at what they do. And I've been really fortunate to work with Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, Pam Grier, who else? Will Friedle from Boy Meets World, Constance Zimmer, Mitchell Whitfield, just all kinds of really great actors who I admire so
Yeah.
much. And then you'll get somebody who's doing it for the first time, and you get to watch them sort of figure out how to do it. We worked with Frank Stallone on Transformers: Robots in Disguise. He did a
Nice.
voice for us, and he was great. He did exactly what we were hoping he would do. So watching the actors work for me is like the reward
Yeah.
after the script is written, to see the words come to life like that.
Is it similar to that feeling of seeing the artist's interpretation of your work?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. Yeah,
That has to be so cool.
yeah.
Man, I just can't wrap my head around all the different experiences you've had. How
I've been really
long
lucky.
you've been very fortunate. How long have you been in the field now?
Oh, you're not supposed to ask questions
I'm
like
gonna
that
make
because it
you
gives
date
away my
yourself.
age. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. I've been doing this for 30 years. I
Three
moved out here in
decades.
1995. Yeah, and started working as a writer about a year and a half later. So it was really lucky. A lot of people wait a lot longer than that for their break, and mine came relatively early. So I'm very grateful.
Anytime I have a creator on here, I like to ask them about their process.
Okay.
So, your writing process, are you somebody that carries around a little notebook with you, and as ideas are coming to you, you're jotting them down? Like, or do you have that scheduled, like, I sit down from this time to this time every day and I write?
Both of those would be great routines if I could follow them. But I am motivated by fear and guilt. And
Okay.
so if I've gone too long without
Deadline.
having
You
written
need
something,
a deadline.
I need deadlines. And I'm not capable of giving myself deadlines. So I sit
Ah,
around and I look at the computer screen and I feel guilty a lot. And then when I'm ready, when I've had enough and I'm sick of myself, then I'll start writing. Um, it usually happens in the late afternoon. That seems to be when I'm most productive.
are you telling me
Late
you're a
afternoon to night.
procrastinator?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I'm very much a procrastinator. And I'm not as efficient as I could be, but it seems to be a process that works for me. So I
That's
can't
what I was gonna
really knock
say.
it.
You've gotten away
Yeah.
with it for
So far, so good.
3 decades.
Yeah. Thanks.
I I say don't change it, man. Maybe that's the secret sauce.
Maybe, and I've talked to plenty of other writers who make themselves crazy before they write, and they really just get into their own heads, and they're trapped there, and they're trying to figure out and work through stories. And
Yeah,
all of us, I think, go through some kind of internal conflict as we're writing. I don't think it's easy for anybody. I think it's really difficult. It's like pulling teeth sometimes. But
yeah,
when a story winds up and you've finished it, and you've finished it in a way that you know it makes sense and it hangs together and it's funny and it's smart or whatever, that's a great feeling. It's just when you're doing it,
yeah.
it's not always fun. I call it first draft flu.
Right.
You just don't feel right physically.
Have you experienced the stereotypical representation of writer's block?
Sure.
Yeah.
You bet. You bet. I think everybody does.
how do you slodge your way out of that?
Um, I, I, this is weird. I get, ideas sort of break open for me when I'm walking the dog or when
Okay.
I'm in the shower,
Yep.
not with the dog. But For some reason, my subconscious is working when I'm doing that, and solutions will appear. I took a class a long time ago where a veteran sitcom writer came in, and he had what he called a cure for writer's block. It's not a cure, but it's something that helps, which I had never thought of doing, which was going to a newsstand. There aren't many of those around anymore, but you can still
Yeah.
find them. And buying 3 magazines that you wouldn't normally read. So, Cat Fancy, Motorsports, and I don't know, Vanity Fair.
Right.
And paging through them, not stopping to read anything, but just letting the images and the headlines sort of wash over you.
Oh, interesting.
And when you're done with that, you may free associate something that helps you with your story or help you create a new story. And I've done that a few times, and it really does help.
That's interesting. Yeah, it probably, in a way, just forces you out of that loop. 'Cause I think
Exactly.
sometimes we get stuck in those negative feedback loops, and we're
Yeah.
like, you just have to change up the routine. It's like it's like those tricks to fall asleep they give you. It's all a
Right.
way of tricking your brain out of that cycle, right?
It's like a self-hypnosis kind of thing almost. And
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than if you're on a writing staff for a show, say, and you're all crowded into a room and you're trying to solve a story problem and nobody has any ideas, or the ideas just aren't working. And you can't go out to a newsstand and find the magazines. You got
Yeah.
to do it in the room, which is why it's good that you have other people there, because you can just bounce ideas around enough until you hit on one that somebody says, "Oh, but what if we did this with that?" And it turns into a solution. But if you're working on your own, like writing comics,
Hmm.
uh, as comic writers often do, you don't have that. So you have to find external ways of bringing in new ideas.
That's an aspect of writing for TV or animation that I'd like to ask you about. What is that collaborative process like with other writers?
I find it's incredibly helpful. We had a writing staff on Messi and the Giants, which we just finished, of 4 people, Guy Tobis and myself, and then 2 other writers, Rocket Rodriguez and Gloria Shen. And we would just sit around, come in and break stories, and try and put these 30 together. Guy would have a general idea of where he wanted to go with a particular episode, and we would flesh it all out. And when you've got people of a like mind and similar creative styles, it's just humming. It really is humming. And if somebody is not feeling it one day, another person steps up and has a lot of
Yeah.
ideas. But when you're bouncing off ideas and each one is making an idea better, by the time you actually get to writing it, there's nothing like it. It's like being in a band.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Adam, I really appreciate the time that you've given to me today. I know you're a busy guy. Well, maybe not. You might go procrastinate a while till that next deadline's going to hit, but
You know me
that
too
just
well.
well, that just means that I'll feel comfortable reaching back out to you to have you back on in the future. 'Cause I'm
I
like,
would be
he's
honored.
he's not doing anything. He's just
Sadly, probably true. Yeah.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity here at the end to let everybody know the best places to interact with you and to find you online and keep
Sure.
track of all the most recent things that you have in the works.
I'm not as active on social media as I should be, but I do have a website, adambeechen.com. You can find me on Facebook, at Sonova, Sonnov. No, that's Twitter. Sorry, Twitter, Sonnova. And then I'm on Facebook as well, and I'm pretty easy to track down there, or on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again for being on today. Hang
Thank
out
you.
with me for a moment here while I talk to everybody. Everybody, you found the podcast, so I don't need to tell you where to find it. If you're listening or watching, you found us. Thank you so much. If you're enjoying it, go ahead and subscribe, like, and maybe even do a 5-star review. And in the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.